It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in, Free Throw Friday. I'm Jeff Parles at Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Hall of Famers aplenty on the show today. Andrews, Maliulo, see Vaccaro at some point.
He'll be in.
He'll be in. He'll make his triumphant entrance. Well, he's going the wrong way.
Which?
He's going the wrong way. Where's he going? He's going the wrong way. The spa's that way.
The spa's that way. That's his automatic path. You got to understand. It's like sometimes you drive to work and you're not paying attention. You always make a right here at that one light. You know.
Oh, yeah, look, I mean, I'm always going south on 15 south to get here. I'm going to do it automatically. You're 100% right.
You might be checking in a dice pit. See how the bones
What, a giant redwood machine over there?
No, that's not a dice game.
No, that's a slot machine.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Jeffrey,
Yeah.
don't blaspheme. Please.
All right, on the show today, it is conference championship week. We've talked about it all week. We now get down to the elite matchups in a lot of these power leagues. Earlier in the day, I just want to touch on real quick. Purdue and Michigan State played basically bowling over each other the whole game. Mm-hmm. Fouls aplenty. Game somehow still went under even with all those free throw attempts. Then Purdue won. Michigan State covered. Tennessee's really the one that really makes no sense of what happened to them today. It's an epic no-show in the SEC tournament. Game was never competitive. Never really even got it closer than 15 in the second half. Mississippi State wins by 17.
Bear Felica texted me, goes, tournament Rick Barnes.
Yeah. I also, too, as we know, no team has ever lost the first game of their conference tournament and then went on to win the national championship.
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
It's bad news for them. It's bad news for Duke last night with their perplexing loss to NC State. And it's bad news for Creighton, who went down to Providence yesterday.
Desperate teams certainly produce, surprising results. I don't think, obviously, the Kentucky game took a lot out of Tennessee last week.
Obviously did, yeah.
And Providence now kind of bookended their season, right? A great start, so in between the last few weeks, and they took it out on they took it to Creighton last night, and then NC State they never backed down from Duke at all.
They played great. They played very well the last two nights now,
from wire to wire, man. So again, this is when teams hear that word bubble and their name, it's a different team that oftentimes shows up. So
look at St. John's hanging in there with Connecticut.
Yeah, they had a lead.
St. John's with a win over Seton Hall yesterday. I think that Johnny.
You think they're in?
I think they're safe.
I hope they're in. I always like the team.
I think they're safe. I think actually both Patinos with the result here in town last night, with New Mexico dispatching relatively easily of Boise State last night at Thomas and Mack. I think they're good. Colorado State, even though they lost the first game of the Mountain West tournament, it might have been a shaky week, but now they're in the conference semifinals. They're fine. Mountain West heading for 6 bids, and if UNLV didn't blow that game yesterday against San Diego State, it could have been more for the Mountain West, as we talked about all year.
Surprising. I mean, the fact that the Mountain West is going to have more than certainly we know the Pac-12. I think it's going to rival the Big East at this point, and probably the ACC. Although I think NC State certainly helped their cause yesterday.
NC State, there are some bid steals. NC State, they have to win the conference tournament in order to get in. Probably. I think Pitt probably needs to win too.
Think they have? Oh, okay.
I think they need to. If they win tonight, it's
I'd like to see them win tonight.
If they win tonight, and we'll get to that game in a little bit. Where are you guys at on that game right now? With what are you? You're at 7.5.
7.
I think I got to.
Yeah, you're at 7.5. The total just got bopped at some other shops down to 146. You're at 147 on that game. I think Pitt needs to win twice.
You think
personally,
so?
I do. Yeah, it's close. It's close, but they will have 2 wins over North Carolina and a win over Duke if they win tonight. So
Pitt, they beat Duke twice. They beat Duke I think they beat them in Cameron, right?
I misspoke. They beat Duke. They beat Duke once, actually.
Yeah, okay.
And they would be with this win tonight would be a win over Carolina.
Okay,
They did not beat. I thought they beat Carolina earlier in the year. They only played them once. But if they win that game tonight, then they would have a win over both of the top two teams in the conference, and a very favorable matchup in the final, regardless of who wins that other semifinal.
Yeah.
Because Virginia, boy, if you had Boston College last night, you're sick to your stomach with the way that game ended. Virginia's a small favorite against NC State tonight. We're 2.5 on that one across the board.
They laid to 2, up to 2.5. Yeah.
Ugly game. Ugly game.
Well,
I think the Pitt number's a little high.
You think it's high?
A little
Okay.
bit. I thought like about 6.5 myself. So I mean, it's not like I'd rush to the window, but I think the number's a shade high.
North Carolina, and we talked about this a little bit last week. They've got a shot now at a number 1 seed. With Duke going down, which they were, and they had beaten them twice already, but with Tennessee going out, I could see Carolina getting some consideration. Connecticut. I think Connecticut is locked in. I think Houston
I think so, yeah.
and Purdue.
Yeah.
Arizona, they're certainly helping their cause, but you know what? If there's any question on a fourth number 1, Carolina may have something to say about it.
If UNC wins the ACC tournament, I think you give them the 4th number 1 and just let Arizona be the top seed in the West, or the 2nd seed in the West, I should say. Works out basically the same at that point. Tennessee eliminated themselves from being a 1 seed today with that loss. And then really, Marquette's not getting there. Iowa's.
Who do you think make the number 1 in the West?
North Carolina would be the number 1.
They would ship them out?
It's either going to be North Carolina or Arizona as the one in the West,
yeah.
and then it's just a matter of where we send everyone else at that point.
Auburn sure looked pretty good today.
Yeah, that's a bad matchup for South Carolina. That's the second time Auburn drilled them this year. Yeah. Hey, Vinny's been higher than anyone on Auburn all year.
Since October, he's been talking about Auburn. Yeah,
dangerous team.
Yeah, Janae Broom with another huge game for Auburn as well. Very good basketball team. Bruce Pearl has yet again coasting into the SEC semifinals. I want to go to the Big Ten real quick. The nightcap session there in Minneapolis tonight. And the first game is a really intriguing game where you have red-hot Ohio State who they have to win the conference tournament in order to get in. They just were in too deep of a hole before this run. They take on Illinois, and we have talked about Illinois a lot on this show. Incredible on offense, mediocre on defense. And pretty much the same sort of deal as what Kentucky has been all year. It's 5 right now. The total for this one is 151. There is some 150 in the market as well on this one. This is an interesting game just because of the red-hot nature of Ohio State. And Illinois they're a pretty public team at this point.
It's funny that the numbers come to 5. I mean, that's what the number is. That's what my numbers would be. Either 5, maybe 5.5. But I really kind of like Ohio State in this game. Just the way they're playing right now. With certainly a mission to get into the tournament with a little bit less pressure on Illinois. I Ohio State with that number.
Another one of those desperate teams, right?
Yeah.
In a tough situation here. So, points at a premium. I think if you see, this game did open 4.5 here at South Point. Maybe bettors are waiting for it to tick up, but I suspect that to Chris's point, they may take it if it doesn't go up. So
they did bet me. I mean, we are high on Illinois.
Yeah.
It's a tough game to handicap for me. That game's in 20 minutes from now in Minneapolis. Danny Hurley is yelling at somebody.
Oh
no!
Surprise!
I know. What a shot!
Not a
there.
fan this time, or
the elder Hurley's getting into it as well. Of course, one of the best high school basketball coaches to ever do it is on the UConn bench there, right behind Danny.
By the way, the other St. Anthony's.
Yes.
So we have that.
Yes, the New Jersey St. Anthony's.
That's right.
Not the
Long Island
St. Anthony's.
Thank you.
No, that's an important.
That's right.
Important distinction on this desk here, with plenty of connections to both St. Anthony's. All right, I just back to that Illinois game real quick because we talk about, and Vinny mentioned it before, there are bettors that will bet the quote-unquote desperate team in these circumstances. I'll just throw this out there. Where there's a reason some of these teams are desperate. Because more times they're not particularly good.
Yeah.
This Ohio State teams, and part of the reason I didn't bet this game is because of the nature of what what has gone into this run of firing Chris Holtmann, having John Diebler do an incredible job as the interim coach here, and it's a little bit of a different handicap as your normal, hey, like in the second game here, where Indiana, where they need to win the conference. Indiana's just not
clearly,
a particularly good
they're just not
basketball
that good,
team
whereas Nebraska's in pretty much.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, the numbers, it's not a number play for me. I just kind of like the momentum right now that Ohio State has. And, they seem to, they're a desperate team, playing like a desperate team. And sometimes when you have that interim coach, and I remember the first time I really kind of was aware of it was when Steve Fisher took over that Michigan team. What was that, 89, I want to say, Jeff? And, Bo Schembechler said, we're going to have a Michigan man coach a Michigan team, but he never named him the coach until after the run was over. And I think that's the right way to do it, because I think the kids play harder for that interim coach to try to get him the permanent job. And that's kind of what I see right now with Ohio State. And I think they're going to play hard. I don't know if they can win this game. Like I said, I think the number's right there, but I kind of favor them a little bit with the points.
Rumeal Robinson,
yeah,
1989.
Did he go to the foul line and sink those two shots
right
against
against
Seton Hall?
Seton Hall, yeah. Jeez,
Seton Hall fans to this day.
Yeah.
Still not happy with the officiating.
I had Seton Hall. I took the point, so I won my bet. But you root for a team for 39 minutes and 59 seconds.
Carlissimo.
Yeah, I like PJ too.
Going to that other game with Nebraska and Indiana, Huskers, weird to say, a basketball matchup between Nebraska and Indiana, and the Cornhuskers are the team safely in the NCAA tournament. And Indiana's the one that needs to run the table there in Minneapolis. It's 145.5. Vinny, I'll just ask you this, where we talk all year about home road splits. Now we're on a neutral. Nebraska's home road splits are pretty jarring.
Yes.
They're as good as anyone in the country at home.
Yes.
And on the road, they did win in Bloomington a few weeks ago against this Indiana team. But they were a pretty average road team. Now you put them on a neutral where the Indiana fans are kind of dismayed with everything that's gone on, so they're not as invested in a trip to Minneapolis here. Usually it's just down the road, either in Chicago or Indy in this conference tournament. And for Nebraska fans, I mean, this is a rare chance, a double bye in the Big Ten tournament for Nebraska basketball.
With all the talk that's been, made about the Big Ten, any talk about it, really, nobody really talked a whole lot about Nebraska, right? Certainly going into the season.
Yeah, under the radar.
But, and even during the season. But to your point, Jeff, terrific at home. A very difficult environment to play in. Again, they by the way, they laid 3.5, 4, and 4.5 on this game. Woo. So it's been all Huskers here waiting for that threshold to see some buyback. So the one-way action, which to bookmakers' chagrin, but it's does the neutral court? No, neutral court's taken into account obviously in the number, right? I mean, if this game was in Nebraska, would have opened probably closer to 5.5, maybe even 6. Especially given Indiana's form, but. It's keep an eye on this on Nebraska. Play physical, tough on the boards. This will be a tough one. It'd be interesting if both favorites come out of these two late games. Quite a contrast in styles between Illinois and Nebraska.
I think Nebraska would be willing to run in that game a little bit.
It will, but still, I don't want to. I think they'd rather certainly dictate the big and make it more deliberate, more physical, certainly. Than
you want teams to sweat that are on the bubble? Have Indiana and Ohio State win this game tonight, so one of them is playing for a conference championship on Sunday.
There you go.
In the last possible game beforehand.
Good point.
Where I don't. Lenardi right now has Ohio State as Team 70, which is the highest they have been. Or excuse me, not 70, 74, which is the
Wow,
highest
really?
they have been in
Yeah.
a while.
Well, that's what happens when you fire your coach mid-season.
Well, they weren't even close. I mean, they weren't even listed until I think
Until
today's
recent,
like the first day I've seen them listed. Even in the next 4 out, really an incredible run from the Buckeyes to even get into the picture potentially very safely in the NIT, especially with those new rules going into that. All right, Southeastern Conference up next. A&M squarely on the bubble. They do have quality wins. They beat this Kentucky team to play tonight. They beat Tennessee at home as well. They beat Iowa State on a neutral back in November. And here they are tonight in Nashville with the top seed gone in this tournament already. The Cats are 5.5. As always with Kentucky, a higher total, 158.5, which in an A&M game is pretty darn high with the way they want to play. Look, Vinny, Chris, we've talked about Kentucky for the better portion of a month. Since that loss to Gonzaga, they've been as good as anyone.
Yeah.
And that has been the willingness for Calipari to basically go, you know what? We're going to have to beat teams scoring 80 points, 90 points. And they've dove into this. We're going to just bludgeon you with our offense. And for a month, it has worked very, very well.
Led by the youth, 5-6 freshmen are the main contributors.
Dillingham and Shepard.
Right? And, I will tell you this. Yes, it's a neutral, but I can assure you that in Nashville here, there will be a ton of blue. Trust me.
Majority.
A lot more than A&M.
Be a lot majority blue.
Yeah.
So, it's as close to a Kentucky home game, especially with Tennessee being bounced now. And I know the game was earlier, but I'm going to tell you that Kentucky knows that they're going to feed off the crowd tonight. I'm a little surprised the game has not gone up just yet, but I think as we get closer to tip off here, this number will tick up for sure because there'll be a lot of. Again, it's not Rupp Arena, but it could turn into Rupp South real quick.
My numbers come a little lower, but I understand that 5.5 is probably a better number. My numbers would come to like 3.5, but I think 5.5 is probably a better number. Some of the things Vinny said, about the home court, I believe there will be just a ton of Kentucky people there. I'm not sure A&M travels all that well for basketball, and I don't know. I mean, A&M, kind of a tough team. Again, another team on the bubble, but I think so much momentum for Kentucky. Hard to bet against them at this point.
Well, and also, too, it's a 6 o'clock local start in Nashville on a Friday with the whole weekend ahead. You get my drift of what those Kentucky fans have probably been doing all day.
Yeah.
Down there on Broadway in Nashville. Maybe a beverage or two. For those fans throughout the day.
I'm sure a few of them stopped in. By the way, Garth Brooks just opened his place recently down there, too. I'm sure it get frequented.
For a Northeast guy, myself, I love that city.
Really? I've been through there.
I am a big fan of that city.
My kid went there for about 8-9 months. He was trying to get in as a session drummer. Hard to break in.
Oh, yeah. No, the Broadway, the music scene. What a fun time that place is.
I was there. I was a session drinker. Great.
I think that's a majority of the population that visits that town.
Great time.
The other game in that one tonight, actually an intriguing one. We saw this matchup last week in Gainesville, and Florida really took it to Alabama in that matchup at the O-Dome. Bama's 4.5, as again, Alabama games, Kentucky games, totals are going to be high. This one is no exception. 175
yeah.
with a 4.5 on that one. With Alabama, 175. What did this come when these teams met last week? 177, right? Pretty sure it was in the high 170s, right?
Yeah, the money's on the over. We opened 171.
This total moved 4 points today.
And you know what? I still don't think it's moved enough, personally.
Might not be enough.
We've talked about Alabama. These SEC teams are, I think they're polarizing teams almost just because of the way that they play. Bama, to me, is a worse version of Kentucky because they're worse. They're technically better on defense, but not enough to justify the difference on their offenses. Alabama's efficiency numbers are amazing. The problem that I have with Alabama is when they're not making their threes, they're incapable of beating you in other ways. Unlike Kentucky, who is capable of beating you 5 or 6 different ways if Alabama's threes aren't going, it could be a long night. It's part of the reason I like Florida in this game to actually pull the outright upset and advance to tomorrow in Nashville in this game. I think Florida's a bad matchup for them. Gators are long, and they're also capable of matching the offensive firepower, which
run.
not many teams are capable of doing that.
Good point.
My numbers are 4.5.
Yeah,
so
it's right on it.
I'm like right there.
Yeah, right on
so
it.
No opinion, really.
Good point, Jeff. That's the Gators don't mind running. The difference between Alabama and Kentucky too is that Kentucky, they've got 7, 8 guys that they're not all going to go cold at the same time, right? Well, at least law of averages says not. But to your point, Bama when they do get chilly, from that arc, it's they can't sustain. So
it is going to be an interesting team when the bracket comes out on Sunday, where they're lined up and which 13 seed they draw, because they're one of my upset candidates in the first round, just because of
Bama?
the way, Bama,
Oh,
just
really?
the way they play. Now they're also capable of beating a 13 seed by 30 points if they're playing their game. High variance, and that's the name of the game of a lot of these non-elite teams this year. I want to go to the American real quick, just for one reason here, because we have a very odd situation for a conference that you would think of the number one seed that won 17 straight games at one point would be safely in, and they're not. South Florida handled their business earlier in the day as an 8-point favorite against ECU. They'll take on Alabama Birmingham tomorrow in the semifinal. FAU, we know, is already going to the tournament. They're in action tonight as a 5.5-point favorite against North Texas, who loves to grind you down. But I'll just ask you this, from a power ratings perspective, with a team like South Florida, where they're not even, if they don't win this conference tournament, they're not going to be there. And up until today, the numbers really back that up. They were a 4-point favorite on the road at Tulsa over the weekend and lost. So it is one of those where the analytics match up with most of the power ratings on South Florida as well.
So funny. I was out to dinner last night with one old friend of yours, Gil Alexander, another one, Chris Felica,
our
the Bear.
guy.
And people recognize Felica. And on the way out, first question: what do you think of South Florida?
Really?
Yeah, I swear to God.
Wow.
That was like the first question before. Hey, it's the Bear. Hey, what do you think of South Florida? I'm not sure what Chris even answered him, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Jeff, it's maybe they do have to win this tournament, or at least have a great showing in the final game anyway.
aside from Florida Atlantic, it's about current form too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's got a lot to do with it. So
Memphis
done.
losing yesterday inexplicably to Wichita State, so they're toast. The other game in that conference, Temple, who was in the news last week, with a beatdown of SMU last
They haven't lost since the controversy, right?
Temple, you wonder, I mean, is this
Bizarre.
I don't know. I mean, I hate to just throw it out there, but I mean, it is in the news and everything, and just wonder what was going on with this Temple team. I mean,
Very weird.
Yeah, I mean, where's there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, is that what we're saying here? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But I can tell you, we're all being very careful booking some of these Temple games.
Yeah, it's 6 right now with Charlotte. Very good defense, not particularly good offense. So
They
anything
took
can play in
6.5
that game.
with Temple.
So you're at 6.5 now?
They took it. No,
they
they
took
took
the
the 6.5.
Okay.
Chris is right. It's right on 6 now.
All right, going back to the Big East, UConn just extended their lead to 8 late goings in the first half. Now closed 9 or 9.5 on that game, guys. 9.5, right?
They laid 9. They took 9.5. We went to 9, and I think we closed at 9.5. So yeah.
Well, UConn again, one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win their second consecutive championship. Would be the first since 06-07 Florida to do that with Billy Donovan and a whole hoist of pros down there, including Joakim Noah. The second game at MSG, Providence, they needed it last night to at least get their picture better for the NCAA tournament. They got it. They upset Creighton. And Marquette, even without Tyler Kolek, survive in overtime. I wish that play at the end of regulation had counted, because that play call was just so good from Shaka Smart.
Is that right? Because I was watching on the internet. We were out to dinner.
Yeah.
And I thought, what was it, 60-58, I think. And
Yeah.
Because I think the Bear had took the points with
Villanova. And yesterday was a bad overtime day for underdogs.
I said, it's 60-58. And about 2 minutes later, he goes, it looks like they didn't count that last bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Marquette is 4.5 without their best player here against Providence tonight. 138 the total on this one. No qualms on the numbers for me on this. Okay. I thought they were rock solid.
Is he back for the tournament?
Kolek is expected to be ready for the NCAA tournament. Yes. Yeah. I'm not a believer in that team even with him personally. Really? Yeah.
Right. Too Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Good. They'll beat the snot out of a 15 seed, but then I think they're going to have a hard time beating a good 7 or 10. Mm-hmm. Kind of like last year where they beat up on Vermont and then Michigan State KO'd them in a round of 32 as a 2 seed last year. All right. We'll talk about this one, and then I'll get to the team who is turned into the bane of my existence this year. UNC and Pitt, not these teams. I like both of these teams. UNC is 7.5. We talked about this earlier. You said you thought this was a little bit high. A little high.
My numbers come to 6.5. So again, not crazy, but maybe a shade high. I think, gun to my head, I would play the dog and take the money. I'd take the points. Maybe throw a little bit on the money line as well.
Go ahead, Vinny.
You were asking me yesterday, Jeff. We were when we were.
Yeah, I came up. The other way, didn't I?
Well, I said the game was about 7.5, 8 with NC. I mean, NC's playing as good as anybody in the country, and right now, looking to boost their seeding. But I like Pitt. I like what Capel's done with this team all year. This is another team. We mentioned Nebraska earlier in the Big Ten, but you look at what I don't think anybody really expected this kind of season out of Pitt at all. So credit him and his players, and now they're in a position to get into the big dance.
Boy, Pitt was so down a couple years ago till Capel got there. I mean, he's really done a fantastic job.
Kevin Stallings was not good, to put it politely.
And the thing is,
everyone knew.
I mean, I'm really not a Pitt fan, but I know a lot of friends and all that who are. Everybody knew it right away. It was just a terrible hire. And it winds up the search committee had these connections to Stallings, and just horrible.
No, it's not good. If Pitt were to make the tournament, that'd be back-to-back years. They made it last year. They won the first 4 game and then held Iowa State to sub 40 in that round of 64. They lost to Xavier last year in that round of 32. In that one, North Carolina, I think, is one of 6 teams that I give a legitimate shot to win the title at this point. They're
good enough.
Mm-hmm. They are playing great basketball, and they're really good on defense. I obviously usually think high flying offense. They are really good defensively this year. They're actually 22nd in offense and 6th on defense in KenPom. So the numbers bear that out this year as well. All right, Virginia. It looks like they're going to make the NCAA tournament despite everyone's best efforts here. 2.5-point favorites against NC State, 122.5. I bet NC State on principles, guys. I just can't. I can't watch this Virginia team. It's so bad on offense. Now they're solid on defense. Obviously,
122.5 for
the 122.5. If anything, might be high for the way that they're
50 points less than an SEC game.
Yeah,
It's the lowest total on the board, right?
Yeah, it is. I look. Not that I'm buying the Wolfpack, and I will say tomorrow, if NC State were to pull this upset, regardless of who wins that early game, there'll probably be a bet on the winner of the early game against NC State. Because forget going forward, they started in the first round of this tournament.
Yes.
So this is game 4 in 4 days tonight, and tomorrow would be 5-5, which no one has ever done that in the ACC, winning 5-5 to win the conference.
Good point.
Tournament.
I think they took the 3 with NC State, and I think it's a couple of things. I think it's the pace factor. They seem to be able to, at least in this tournament so far, they've been able to dictate the pace and match up to whatever their opponent's doing. Them. It was a big win yesterday over Duke. You wonder, was it? Are they? I don't want to say overconfident, but how much did it take out of them? Or do they build off of that momentum again? I mean, they're a dangerous out here. I'm not surprised that they took the points, and they might continue to take them, right? So, this Virginia but Virginia, to their credit, they play a lot of close games because they don't score a lot of points. So, but if you like NC State here, why don't you just take the quarter, take plus 125? I mean, you like them. If you like them to win the game. So.
Yeah, I 100%. I just like them outright in this spot. Let's go to some better action in Kansas City. We end up with the top 4 seeds in the Big 12 here when it's all said and done. Houston, 10-point favorites tonight against Texas Tech. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. That box score yesterday with TCU was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. 45 points, 30 offensive rebounds for the Horned Frogs in that game, and they still lose and don't come close to covering. Houston's just a behemoth, guys. I mean, they are, to me, if they win the Big 12 tournament, and this is not to say anything bad about UConn, who's up 10 right now, or Purdue, who very well may win the Big 10 regular and post, it's hard to deny Houston the number 1 overall seed at this point. If they go through Kansas City, win the regular and postseason in the Big 12, which is the best conference in the country, I think these numbers are spot on. 10 is good with me, nothing there. I'd only look to under in this game. I think Texas Tech is going to struggle to score.
Yeah, I think it might be a shade high. I liked Texas Tech the other day. I thought they were impressive myself.
They were great.
But Houston, Jeff, my numbers make them the best team. And I hate to say that. I have a little bit of a beef with one of their big supporters, but anyway, that's strictly a personal thing, and I have to let that go when I'm making numbers. My numbers have Houston, like a couple points better than Connecticut, and I think, I think that's right. I mean, if they teed it up, I'm sure I'd be rooting for Connecticut unless I had some money involved. But I think they are the best team. They're going to be awful tough to beat from anywhere from here on in.
They defend. I don't think they get enough credit for their defense.
Number 1 in the country by a pretty significant margin.
It's amazing that right. We know that, but how much does that really get talked about? Not a whole lot outside of these circles. Even bettors. A lot of people that back them don't really follow that. This is a game, though, that moved on money. This is an 8.5, 9.5.
I don't blame the bettors.
So, and Houston coming into the Big 12, everybody thought they were going to, it was going to be a, come back to earth type situation for them. No, that's not the case at all. Now, they do also, if they play in this, which they figure to play in the region, right? If they're going to be one of the top 2 seeds in the country, or top 3 seeds in the country, right?
They're going to be the one.
However,
in the
the committee decides.
The one in the South.
So if they're, it's in Dallas.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The regionals is in Dallas. So a pretty nice path moving forward. They know it. Well coached. Kelvin Sampson does a great job. So depth, a little bit of a concern, but it's been a concern all year, and they seem to overcome it every. Just about every game, every week for sure.
Honestly, at this point, we talked about it. The 1 seeds, the 1, 2, 3,
I think
all have incredible, just geographical roads.
Mm-hmm.
Purdue is Indianapolis and Detroit.
Yes.
UConn is Brooklyn and Boston.
Yeah.
Houston has the hardest, quote unquote, travel for any of these teams with a first weekend in Memphis and then Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as perfectly set up for those 1 seeds.
Yeah.
If you're asking for locations of games as you can possibly get. Obviously, it's not an automatic, as we know this tournament can produce anything. But UConn basically playing 4 rounds of home games before the Final Four. Yeah. Good luck, everyone, trying to beat them in Brooklyn and Boston.
If you're going to try to beat Houston, you got to hope that 8-9 matchup produces somebody really tough that can maybe match up.
Well, and I think for Houston, and fair or not, the thought with them will always be what we've seen be their bugaboo in the tournament in the past. Their offense disappears.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that I think that could possibly KO them earlier. This offense is better than any of their offenses in the past because they have more than just one big-time scorer. You have 3 guys that can really beat you this go-around, which is something they haven't really had in the past.
We talked about the scary part that this Connecticut team, I think, is better than last year's team, even though 3 guys graduated. I think this Houston team's better than last year's Houston team.
I 100%
Right?
agree with you on that. Yeah.
To your point, Jeff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
by the way, the West is those two are what cities again? This is Los Angeles.
The regional is in L.A.
L.A. Right?
In
Yeah.
L.A. Yeah. I don't know where Arizona would. I think Arizona go to Salt Lake. I think that's what it is.
For
Salt
the
Lake
first round, you mean?
for the first weekend.
Interesting.
Salt Lake is closer to Tucson than
No, it is.
Spokane. So it would
but
be Salt Lake.
altitude. It's a little, they'll probably get there.
Yeah,
earlier.
North Carolina would stay on the East Coast because
Yeah.
they do those pods now. I think it's either Charlotte or Greensboro. It's one of those North Carolina cities. If it's UNC, the late game in Kansas City is a fascinating one to me. These two teams are both really good. Iowa State really destroyed Kansas State in the final 20 minutes yesterday. Baylor, after not being able to make a shot for 17 minutes, ended up coasting and winning last night against Cincinnati. 1.5. Iowa State the favorite. Total 134. So my big issue with Iowa State is actually what I just kind of said, what could be the detriment for Houston. Iowa State's the second best defensive team in the country. They're 70th in offense. My concern with them, and this goes for the NCAA tournament for them as well, I'm just concerned they're going to have one game where they don't shoot well. And they're going to have to beat someone 55-50, which that defense is capable of doing, but that's hard to do in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, again, you see the total here, 134, pretty low.
Yeah, I think that's
not
right.
quite as bad as the Virginia total, but still it indicates probably, we're looking at a defensive-oriented game for sure. My numbers come to 1.5. I have no real opinion here either. So, I don't, I just hope whoever comes out of here has a great game against a likely opponent in Houston.
Basically a pick'em game, right? It got as low as 1 off the opener of 2, and then they laid it. So that's how we got to 1.5 here at South Point. But no, it's a pick'em game really when you look at it with these two teams. This will be a good one. I'm looking forward to this game, actually.
So we might have some first-half chicanery here real quick, guys, at Madison Square Garden.
What's going on?
52-47 with a bucket pending at the end that would give St. John's a first-half cover. If it counts, I think it's late, which would land it at 5, which would land it on a push for St. John's numbers. They rolled it good on the court. I don't think that was out on time.
Can't see the clock. Where's the clock?
It expired completely. They're going to show it again. There it is,
there
right
it is.
there.
0.3.
0.3, 0.2. I think that's late. If last night's was late, that is almost as
You
close.
can't go by last
I
night's
mean,
as late.
that's almost as close as last night's. I think that's late, personally. But regardless, UConn's going to be up
You think
either
it-
5 or 3. There's some
Yeah.
anxious people behind us. I can tell you that right
I'm
now.
sure.
Oh, they didn't even tell us what they ruled. All right,
Well,
great.
they're still reviewing.
But regardless, an incredible half at MSG with over 100 points, if the bucket counts, if not 99. So a wild one. We'll see what they rule. We'll see what they rule in a second here on that one. All right, keeping it in town. Actually, you know what? Let's take a quick break, actually. I'm going for about 40 minutes. We'll take a quick break. When we go back, we have games in town, a lot of them,
Yeah.
to say the very
ones.
least. Pac-12 on the Strip, Thomas and Mack with some good Mountain West action. And you know what? Might even have to talk about the WAC or the Big West as well, also in town here. That's next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio. The perfect blend of sports,
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
comedy,
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
I am beautiful, and a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Join Ryan McCormick,
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year.
and host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock. I go,
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo alongside. I'm Jeff Parles. Caden and Sean making sure we're on the air in the back over there, doing great work as always. All right, to the Pac-12 we go. The final basketball game in Pac-12 network history. Arizona against Oregon tonight. Ducks did their best to blow that game against UCLA yesterday, but found a way to hold on and win. Arizona, pretty methodical about it, really dominated USC for the bulk of that game, winning and covering yesterday afternoon at T-Mobile. It's 12, it's 155. I have no interest in this game. We would expect this to be played at more of an Arizona tempo than a USC game was yesterday. And now they're used to the building again. So I would expect a nice offensive effort from the Cats tonight.
Yeah, my numbers come to 11.5.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just
negligible.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there. I think you said it during the break. This team's just too good physically, athletically, just too good for pretty much everybody in this league.
Deeper, stronger, faster. They did lay the 11, right, Chris? I think on the opener. So it's this is going to be all Arizona here. This number will probably go up again. This is an early start, and then culminating with the 7:30 game, which we'll talk about here in a second. But well attended and a lot of support for the Cats here in town.
Always.
Well, they dominate the building. They always do at T-Mobile. By the way, real quick, Ohio State out 11-6 on Illinois. So
wow,
quick start in mini for that one as well. To the late game. The late game is these classic games where I was like, you know what? If this somehow comes out with a funky number and comes out pick, I'm going to bet Colorado, which was a pipe dream, of course. 2.5 right now with the squad from Boulder against Wazoo. It got as low as 1.5. It's gone back up the ladder now. We opened at 2. Colorado, I still think, needs to win tonight in order to be in the NCAA tournament. If they lose, it will be a very uncomfortable few days before Selection Sunday. Wazoo, again, and just keep winning. Unbelievable coaching job by Kyle Smith with a team that I just don't think has a lot of talent, but here they are, safely in the NCAA tournament, and with a win tonight, we'll play for a Pac-12 title tomorrow night.
I think the number's a shade high. Again, I made it like 1. Yeah. But, yeah, I think I might take a shot here. It's at 2.5. Game should go down to the wire, I would think.
Washington State, right? It beat Arizona twice this year. Think about it, right? And I think this is another surprise team that people really weren't that high on. But in Colorado, I think you hit it on the head, Jeff. No question. They need to win this one, and they probably have to win the conference, I think, to get a bid.
I think
that's going to be hard.
I think
which is difficult.
I think a close loss to Arizona tomorrow probably does it.
Fair enough, yeah.
But I mean, if Oregon somehow pulls the shocker in the first game, then it's winner take all.
Then it's
tomorrow night in Vegas,
win,
where whoever if it happens to be Oregon against Colorado, it is winners in, losers out to me, because. Losing to Oregon again would not help the Buffs. That matchup was last week. Colorado won in Eugene last time those teams played.
They bet this game over too. By the way, up a couple of points at sitting
Interesting.
at 140. Yeah, they did. They
Interesting.
They went over 138 and 139.
Let's go to the Mountain West. Let's go to the Mountain West.
Okay.
Yesterday, the first two games of the day went to overtime. If you had the wrong number on Fresno State, take a lap. If you had that, with Utah State winning by 12 in OT as a 12-point closing favorite in that game. Those Aggies will take on San Diego State tonight. The 5-seeded Aggies are 4.5-point favorites against Utah State, which, is interesting because it just kind of shows, even with the strength of this league, the San Diego State Aztecs were the same number yesterday against the UNLV Running Rebs. So, I don't think Utah State's, even though they got the 1 seed and won the regular season, I don't think they're the best team in this league. The numbers clearly say that. I think Utah State's closer to the 5th best team in this league. I'd actually lay the lower seed as the favorite in this game if I'm going to do anything here. The one problem with always laying points with San Diego State is their offense could just totally disappear, like we have seen plenty this year.
It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine. It seems like the San Diego State team's always just tough.
Oh, they always are.
Yeah,
yes.
They're a tough thing. You think of these
from Fisher to Dutcher, it doesn't matter who's coaching.
You think about these California blonde-haired surfer dudes. No, not really. No, these are tough kids. Going all the way back to like Kawhi Leonard and guys like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the team's just always tough. Number went up. I mean, I see 5s out in the market. Yeah, I think that's a shade high myself. My numbers were more like the opener, like 3.5. But the money showed on San Diego State, and I'd be careful betting against them. But I think the 5's a shade high.
A clear example of what we talk about, right? Polls don't determine prices. Seeding,
standings don't determine prices.
Don't forget it's all about the power ratings right here. And to Chris's point, I mean they laid everything from 3.5 on up. So. It's no real shock here. And, San Diego State learned that lesson last week, losing the UNLV. They lost the 2 games in a row, actually, last week.
I think that's part of everything with this league at this point, where
they beat each other up, right?
I'm still stunned Boise went to Viejas and won that game last week, but in part there was that ridiculous shot at the end of the shot clock from 50 feet in overtime to kind of help Boise pull that upset.
But they put themselves in that spot,
they were
right?
in overtime, the toughest place to play arguably the toughest place to play in the conference. They're in the Pitt, obviously.
Yeah.
But I would only, again, you guys have the lone 4.5 left. I would just lay that.
It looks like there's a couple.
There are a bunch of 5s. Yeah.
I see Stations has 4.5.
Yeah, Caesars is 4.5. So there's a few 4.5s in the market on that one. To the late game, New Mexico, which turned Thomas and Mack into Pitt West last night, taking on Colorado State, who very impressive performance by the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it got down to 5 at one point, but there's really no doubt that they were going to win that game.
Yeah, they've been pretty good all year.
Yeah,
they really
a
have.
little bit of a lull during conference play. They looked like the team in November that went to Kansas City and beat Creighton by 20 points last night for a chunk of the game. This is an interesting line. New Mexico's 2.5. 154. I think both of these teams are in the NCAA tournament based off the fact that they're in the semifinal. Some will disagree that New Mexico still needs to win this game tonight in order to solidify their spot. I like the Rams. I just think the Rams are the better basketball team when it's all said and done. And the one thing that concerns me with New Mexico, didn't hurt them last night. If they're made to have to make jump shots, that's a bad mix for them. They need to be out in transition with House and with Dent, and they need to be running the floor. If they're unable to do that against a Colorado State team that should be able to at least keep the tempo in check, it probably leads to a Rams win. So I do like Colorado State outright tonight in this game.
Well, my numbers come to 2, and with all the the fans that'll be in attendance, I can see where 2.5 it might be a better number.
Yeah.
I think the 2.5 is fine. I would have no opinion on this one.
Total's been bet up from 150 to 154, and I think it's going to continue to climb. This is a 9 o'clock Pacific start, and I will tell you, because of that and everything going to it, and just the fact that people are going to be there and betting, and here, of course, the book is open 24 hours. This will be this will be one of the highest handled games of the day.
Yep.
I mean, think about that. When you still have the ACC, the Big Ten, right, going, the Pac-12, but this game is going to draw tremendous handle. In fact, it may wind up being the highest handle game of the day, Chris, with the carryover, right?
Yeah, we've had a few pretty good whacks today, but again, you look at a 9:00 game on the West Coast. It's the get even or get even worse game, and I think that a lot of guys, they'll be plunging at this one. So I don't know. I like I said, I think the number's great. I think it's perfect, and come on in and fire away, boys.
There'll be a lot of firing away over the next 3 weeks as well, including tonight. All right, keeping it in Vegas. Let's get some smaller conferences here.
All right.
Because our friends Matt Neverett and Ben Wilson are on the calls of some of these games here tonight in town. We'll start with the games our guy Matt Neverett is on in Henderson tonight at the DLC. Number 1 seed UC Irvine. It might be the first time all year we've mentioned UC Irvine on the show. They're good. They're a good basketball team. If they win this league, they're going to be a very hard matchup for a 4 or a 5 seed. They'll be on the 12 or 13 line. They take on Long Beach State, who inexplicably fired Dan Monson before this tournament even started.
Did they really?
Yeah.
He's been there a while.
Yeah, very strange. Very strange.
Started out at Gonzaga's where he
was
made
Minnesota
his
too, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Very weird that they did that. It's 8. I have no problem. No problem with this. And the bettors seemingly did like the Anteaters in this game because they did bet this thing to 8 from 6.5.
I made it 8, and I thought that I let my guys, they do the openers and all that, but I think 8 is a better number. That's what my numbers come to. I think Irvine is a better team and deserving of being an 8-point favorite here.
Pretty familiar with each other. I think a lot of these players, right? You look at it geographically and things like that. But you know what? 8. They may not stop there.
This game starts at 6, so they'll have some more time. Plenty of time for that one. The other one at the DLC tonight is an interesting one as well. Hawaii will take on UC Davis. Hawaii right now, they beat Northridge last night. Davis is 2.
Flip of favorites. Actually, we're up to 2.5. 2.5 now.
Are we?
Yes, just went to 2.5.
Now this is an overnight favorite flip. I don't agree with the move.
I don't either.
I think this is solely hey, Hawaii played last night, game ended late, we're going to just try to fade up with the fresh team. I don't think that's right. I think Hawaii's the better basketball team. I thought that original number of Hawaii favored by 1 or pick was actually right.
That's what my numbers are. Pick or 1 Hawaii. You know, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Vinny says we went to 2.5. I haven't gotten that move yet. But evidently the money is all on Davis. And I'm kind of with you, Jeff. I think the original favor was probably the right number.
Yeah, I think assuming Irvine handles their business, Irvine will be a nice size favorite tomorrow night in Henderson and probably be laying it with Irvine regardless of opponent. They're just much better than everyone.
2. That was
2?
I was looking at the New Mexico game. Just went to
New Mexico is 2.5. There's even some 3 in the market now in New Mexico.
So
there you go. At Orleans tonight. I want to stay. So weird little quirk with this conference, real quick. You have the Red Hawk of Seattle on your chest.
You know their most famous
Elgin Baylor.
Elgin Baylor. Okay. I thought maybe I can nail you on that.
Nah, you know what? If memory serves me correctly on this, in Glory Road, obviously Glory Road's the movie about Texas Western, now UTEP. Don Haskins, the first team ever to start 5 African-American players and win a national championship, beating Kentucky, which a lot of things going on.
Adolph, that didn't sit real good with Adolph.
No, it did not. But I'm pretty sure that Texas Western beat Elgin Baylor in that NCAA tournament, right?
I don't know.
I have to double-check that now. Did they?
But Elgin's one of those guys kind of forgotten. But, when I was a kid, when you looked at the all-time top 5, this is when I was a kid. There's no doubt Elgin was one of the forwards. No
He was-
doubt.
Oh,
Wow,
yeah.
I mean,
with the
incredible
Lakers,
player.
he got overshadowed by.
Yeah.
Look
And he
at,
only
look
was
at
like
his teammates.
6'6", right? He was
Yeah.
pretty small, right?
And you could have cut off his left arm. He never went left. He always went right.
Always went right.
Always.
But he
going
was
to the
that
bucket.
good, it didn't matter.
It was that good. I mean, I know he had 72 or 73 in one game. I mean, he was just a great player.
Look at his teammates who overshadowed him. There was a guy named Wilt Chamberlain.
A guy named Jerry West.
Jerry West, but he was phenomenal. I got to see him play in the Garden against the Knicks. I wouldn't bet against your call though, Jeff, on that. If
I have to double check that now because it might have been Elgin might have been too early for that.
No, I don't think it'd be too early for that.
No,
that was 65.
60. Yeah,
that's about the time.
All right, let's
let's go to the videotape, as Warner Wolf would say, Jeff.
You're gonna make me go to this. 19.
Texas Western.
Texas Western was 66, right?
66. Okay.
Yes, Texas Western was 66. No, it was not Seattle. All right, then what year was Elgin at Seattle? Regardless.
I'm going to guess Elgin got out of Seattle in 63.
So Texas Western beat Kansas in the regional final that year in double overtime.
Wow.
And they also beat Cincinnati as well. And Oklahoma City University.
Wow.
Which I don't think has a D1 basketball team anymore. All right. So the weird quirk with this WAC tournament, Tarleton State, who is the 2 seed, is ineligible for the NCAA tournament because they're the ridiculous. Hey, you were a D2, you can't be in the tournament for X amount of years. All that
stupid
nonsense.
is that?
It's totally idiotic. So if Grand Canyon beats Seattle tonight, and Tarleton beats UT Arlington, Grand Canyon's got the bid. It's over. They're going. If Seattle were to upset Grand Canyon and then Tarleton were to win the next 2, Grand Canyon would go, not Seattle. So there you go. That's all we had to do on that.
Okay.
Grand Canyon is 6 in this first game against Seattle. The Antelopes are really good. Bryce Drew's the head coach there at Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the tournament 2 years ago. This is a really, really, really good basketball team. I actually would consider laying 6.
They laid 4.5.
Yeah,
and
I
up
would
to
even
6.
consider laying 6, even with the worst of the number here. I just think they're much better than everyone else in this league.
Didn't Bryce Drew took over for Dan Marley, right?
Bryce Drew
I
took
think he
over
did,
for
yeah.
Thunder Dan. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And of course, Grand Canyon was in the NCAA tournament last year. I should say they lost to Gonzaga. That was a 1st to 15 game. I'm pretty sure with the 14 seed, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh man, 6.
By the way,
on this
Elgin
one.
came out in 1958.
Yeah, so it was way ahead.
Wait, what year? 58?
58. He was in the NBA draft. Yeah.
Ooh.
Wow,
First overall pick.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. Big surprise.
What a player.
By the Minneapolis.
Lakers.
Minneapolis. Oh, so he played. Did he play with Mikan or no?
I don't know.
50. Would you say 58?
58. It might be before or after Mikan.
Oh, I don't know. Mikan
Mikan was gone. Mikan was gone, but
Gone?
Mikan was
What was
done
his
in
last year?
56. Oh man, George, there. You see, we're all the way back in the time machine. We're at the Minneapolis Lakers.
Yeah.
Forget the LA Lakers. The Minneapolis Lakers. The last game on the board though, Tarleton, UT Arlington put 109 last night on the Lumberjacks, which is a WAC tournament record. Won in this one, their favorite against Tarleton. Yes, Tarleton's the better seed. I think Arlington's a better basketball team. I think this number's right. I do like the Mavericks, so we could end up with a Arlington Grand Canyon WAC final, as we all would have expected 10 years ago for that to be the WAC final.
No doubt.
Of course, yeah.
At the Orleans here in another one of 5 tournaments here in Las Vegas, conference tournaments.
By the way, I'm wearing
Awesome.
my Seattle shirt, and I've been to that campus. It's a beautiful, beautiful campus. So I always kind of root for them a little bit.
That is a city I've never been. That's a city I will get to.
It's a fun city.
I will get there this summer.
It's a fun city.
By the way, just as an aside, Chris, before we came in today, we were sitting with Michael Gahn, and he shared a story with us about. I talk about. I'm going to bring this up because it's the Orleans. Steve Stallworth,
Yeah.
UNLV quarterback, and also runs the arena here at South Point. When he was at the Orleans, he kept convinced Michael Gahn that we could get college basketball here in Las Vegas, and he finally put together like a round robin 4-team event, and look what it's grown into. Remember?
Yeah, really, it all starts with Steve Stallworth.
Amazing.
He's been on our show a couple times.
Tip our caps to Steve.
Terrific addition.
Great guy.
Nevada Sports Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
Steve Stallworth.
Right.
Great in a million different ways. Love Steve Stallworth. Really do.
Awesome.
Love that guy.
Yep. We got to get him on again. He was on with you one time, wasn't he, Jeff?
He was on with Frank.
Right?
He was
with
on
Frank.
Yeah,
we got to get him.
With Frank.
We got to get him back in.
On again, just to talk about the origins of basketball here in Las Vegas. Because without Steve Stallworth, that doesn't exist.
Right. Good stuff.
Absolutely love to do that.
Yep.
Love to talk to Steve. In charge of the arena.
Yeah.
Now here at the South Point. All right. We're back tomorrow morning, 8:30 to 10. Sam Panayotovich in studio with Alex and I at 9:30, if he's awake. But
he doesn't have to be awake to be in
He
studio.
just has to be here. He just has to be here. But we're looking forward to that. Again, Selection Sunday, special, 4 o'clock after the bracket's been revealed. Numbers will be up. We'll have the show
in the computer.
As soon as you can get them in the computer, it'll be up.
It's not automatic. They got to put the headings in and the times and all that, but we'll get them up as soon as possible.
So we'll have our special from 4 to 5 here in the studio, getting you ready for the first 4, the round of 64 and beyond in the big dance. Vinny, Chris, pleasure as always. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again 8:30 tomorrow morning. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.